Hello, I'm Charles McPherson, and I'd like to thank Gail for inviting me today to be involved with this. And I guess there's a lot of things that we could talk about, but I will start with just a little bit of a history, a biohistory of myself. Um, I was born in Joplin, Missouri, and I stayed there up until 1948. And then I moved to Detroit, Michigan. I was about 9 years old. And so I settled there with family that were living there. And so I grew up in Detroit. And I was so fortunate in being in a city with such great musicians. I just happened to live on a street where there was a little jazz club called the Bluebird, and it was like 2 or 3 blocks from my house. And when I got interested in jazz, I would go down and listen to the music. I was too young to get in. I would listen to the music just outside in front of the club. And the house band at that time was Elvin Jones on drums, Barry Harris on piano, um, Pepper Adams on baritone sax, Thad Jones on trumpet, Billy Mitchell, wonderful tenor player, and Beans Richardson, a wonderful bass player, and sometimes bass players like Paul Chambers. This was the house band right down the street from my house. And so I was in heaven when I discovered the kind of jazz that I wanted to learn more about. And here's this wonderful club with that kind of house band. So my early musical beginnings was playing in junior high school. I started playing saxophone in junior high school. Got interested in jazz at about 14 or so. Discovered this jazz club down the street from my house. And from that point on, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And I learned how to play. At least I learned harmony and theory from Barry Harris, who at the time lived right around the corner from me and the club. So I could walk to Barry's house, and and he showed me harmony and theory because I had not a clue on how to improvise or what any of that was about. And so he was so helpful to me at that early age. And I was over to his house every day, soaking every bit of knowledge that I could have. And that was my early beginnings. After a while, I was able to play gigs. When I was about 19, I started working professionally around Detroit. I still couldn't work in clubs, but I could play dances and school functions and any place but a club. Because in Detroit at the time you had to be 21 to get in. And also Miles Davis was living in Detroit during this period. He stayed there for about 2 years. This particular club, the Bluebird that I'm talking about, Miles played there almost every night. So he was part of the band there quite often. And that was my musical beginnings. And it was really great. And later I moved to New York and I started working with Charlie Mingus. And I stayed with Mingus for about 12 years, off and on, but 12 years, pretty close to that. And that's my early beginnings. And this was 1960, around 1972. I kind of stopped working with Mingus and worked with my own group more. I was recording as a leader more. And around 1972, that was pretty much it for me being involved with Mingus. I was on Mingus's last record that he did in 1978. Big band, and everybody was involved with this. George Coleman, Michael Brecker, Randy Brecker, Lee Konitz, myself, Larry Coryell. Joni Mitchell produced it with Mingus, and it was Mingus's last record date. He was not well at that time. And this was 1978. The very next day, I went to California and to visit my mom, and I ended up living in San Diego, and I've been here ever since. And so now I'm still passionately in love with music, more than ever before, actually, because now I understand more. I have a better understanding of what it's about. I think I understand more about what life is about. And I'm beginning to. I'm 81 years old, and I'm learning every day about many things, music, but about life and people, and uh, and the learning never stops. So, and I always want to have a better understanding of everything: myself, people, music, and just life in general, and then how to live it and be happy within it. So that's what I do. I still practice 3 or 4 hours a day. I try to write. And speaking of writing, uh, I just released self-produced CD called Jazz Dance Suites, and it's a work embodying um, well, it's embodying um, original compositions written for dance, um, and it represents about 5 years of me being involved with the San Diego Ballet. My daughter happens to be one of the solo dancers with this company, and certainly it was her, me being inspired by her, um, for me writing this music for jazz dance. And I became the resident composer with the San Diego Ballet. And this represents it represents about 5 years of me writing. So it's really two, it's two suites, and then there is a particular composition that's sandwiched between the two suites. That's really from another suite. So it's called Jazz Dance Suites, and it's the first suite is Song of Solomon, and the next suite is Sweet Synergy Suite. And so I finished that product. I'm sorry, that project. And I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Song of Songs is the first suite. Song of Songs, and then the next suite is Sweet Synergy Suite. So there are about 14 compositions altogether. And I learned a lot from writing this. And I might want to like share my thoughts on these things that I learned. Um, Prior to this project, I wrote, mainly for instruments. I didn't necessarily write episodically. I just wrote tunes that I liked and sounded good to me, or I wanted to, you know, I wanted to play them, and I recorded them, and that was pretty much the way I thought about it. Me writing for dance brought about a different kind of thinking because I had to think differently. And basically, if I were to sum that up, it would be I started thinking more episodically, and I started thinking more about the emotionality that I wanted to convey in these compositions on a conscious level, because I'm writing for people that are going to dance. So I made a point of this will force you while thinking of the notes and and the particular uh, chords and the harmony and the melodies and the structure when conceiving things like this, then when you have a purpose, it makes you, and you're writing a story, or this music is to represent a storyline, then this forces you to write episodically, and it makes you really zero in on exactly what is the emotion that you want to convey. Okay, now I see an I want to I hate to interrupt myself, but I see an icon that jumped up. I don't know if that's interfering with the visuals of people watching or not. Um, I might need to maybe address that.
No, you're fine.
Am I fine? Okay, yeah, because I'm seeing it, and it's blocking me seeing myself, so I don't know how it looks to others. So if I'm okay, then I'll just continue. So, I've started, I think this is an important thing. And it might be good to share these things with uh, young composers and people, young musicians who. Okay, so with young musicians and composers that in terms of writing, and I think it's very important to think episodically, even if you're not writing for dance per se, but to have that part of your thinking while conceiving the melodies and the compositions and that what you want to bring about. I think is very important, and it keeps us, meaning the musicians or the composer, it just keeps us in check so that we are not rambling. Because to me, I think that you should every composition and also every solo that you play on compositions should be organized in an emotional way, not just academically, but and that should be served academics and the right way to do things and craft, if you will, should be obeyed. You should know what you're doing and do it right. But that's called craft. The artistic aspect is how are you using craft to convey the emotionality that you want to convey on a particular composition. And I think that's important not to lose sight of that. There was a great composer that said written music should sound improvised, and improvised music should sound written. And I think I understand what that means. Now, with all of that said, our main, uh, um, I think our main purpose as artists and musicians and as creators using music as a medium is that our main purpose is to express the human condition. This, for me, that's just my way of thinking right now. This is important. It's not enough for us to write a bunch of chords and a bunch of academics. That's great, and that's supposed to be there. But we must not lose sight that all of that are just tools to express ourselves as human beings, and that we should be expressing the human condition. And in order to do that, then you must be in touch with yourself. You must be in touch with your own humanity, and not just yours, but everybody else's. And so those are important things. And to be able to use music to convey love, frustration, mystery, eroticism, thoughtfulness, eros, agape, deep sadness. All these things are what human beings feel. They are emotions. So our job, I think, is to, when we write or play or improvise solo, is to have an emotional story in mind while writing a particular composition or improvising on on that particular composition. So therefore, it gives birth to pure creativity based on you as a human being on planet Earth today, and to express that, and also to be broad and have dimension as an artist, to be comfortable expressing every kind of feeling that a human being can have. And that's everything to abject sadness to the greatest of joy and everything in the middle. And this is what I try for. Now, I learned early on from going over to Barry's house and listening to some of the great musicians that would come over to his house and just talk about things. And I'm like 14 or 15 years old, and I can remember being impressed with how many things these people could talk about. And to my surprise, it wasn't always about music. Quite often, it was about philosophy, about great writers, about great painters, uh, about many things other than music. And I was impressed with that. And I remember asking Barry about this. And he told me, I remember he said, well, listen, if you want to have something to play about, then you have to have an understanding of many things, not just music and 2-5-1s and a Lydian dominant, but you have to be a thinker. You have to be you must have a world view. You must be a thinking human being that has thoughts about many things. And then when you play, you are not just playing chords, dominant sevenths, planet nines. You're actually playing life, and chords and dominant sevenths are helping you express whatever the emotionality of the moment is. And that flatted ninth just happens to be the right kind of sound that you want for the feeling you want to convey. And so I remember those things. And one thing Barry did once for me, I'll never forget this. I came over to his house one afternoon and I had my report card. I was about 15. And he said, let me see your card, Charles. I gave him my card and it had a bunch of C's on there. I wasn't failing, but I didn't have A's and B's. And he looked at it and he said, "You know, you're quite average. That's not good. You can't play this kind of music here and be average. This music requires you got to be you got to get some A's because the A's are going to represent a certain level of thought, and you're going to have that level of thinking and understanding to be able to play the kind of music you want to play." And then he immediately gave me the New York Times puzzle and put a big fat dictionary on the table and said, do this puzzle the best you can, and every word you don't understand or know, look it up in the dictionary. Now, I did that. I hated it. I didn't want to do that, but I started doing it. And after a while, I was able to do okay. And I also started learning a lot of things about words. And I never forgot that. And so I think that is very important, is to learn more than one thing. We are artists and we're musicians. But in order for us to have something meaningful and compelling to write about and to play about, we must live life and we must have dimension. We must understand sadness. We must understand happiness. You cannot play sadness unless you've been sad, and you have to play joy. You must know what that feels like, and to remember that you cannot make one human being feel anything that you're not feeling yourself while playing. So it's bigger than academics and A minor seventh to D7. Those are things that are those are just grammar and parts of speech and language. The big thing is expressing the human condition. And I think this is one of the things that some of the teachers and instructors should really convey that to the young students, in some of the in the schools, is that all of this information that you're learning about is to be used to express ourselves. And let me say this too, because I'll never forget this. I was happened to be in the company of Thelonious Monk one night, and some person came up and asked Monk, where did he get his uniqueness? And because he is such a unique composer and musician, as we all know. And where did you get this individuality and just all of this? And Monk was not a person of many words. He just said two or three words at a time, didn't talk much. But I saw him look, and he this question actually made him think. He thought for a moment, and then he looked at the person and said, don't forget that you are a genius just because you look like yourself. And he said this to the person. And he basically said, the only difference between you and me is that I've delved very deep within myself to find that out and bring that out. And so I thought that was profound because he's really saying all of us have the capacity for this uniqueness. And the way to do it is just believe in yourself. The worst thing you can do is be lazy and do nothing, and understand your inner being, your inner self, and then learn how to use that and to create with that. And basically, everybody could be a genius, really. I mean, it sounds like, oh, it's ridiculous. But if no, we are all little geniuses when we're little kids. In some kind of way, at a certain point, sometimes most of us lose that genius because then we become structured and propagandized a certain way. So I think the way to try to get in touch with that is keep that childlike curiosity through all your life. Always question and wonder and think, and then create. And I'm still learning how to do that, and I do try to do that. Um, I think about many things now. This particular situation we're in now with this pandemic is it's forcing life to be different. The fact we're doing what we're doing now has a lot to do with what's going on in the world, and so we must take advantage of this and still be creative and productive with all this time that a lot of us have. I'm in Southern California. It's almost going. I mean, it's going to be a shutdown, and things work dried up for all of us. The clubs closed, the venues you can't gather. So musicians, people that play music are this is a very interesting time right here, and we have to come up, still be strong, creative, and still try to make good use of our time. And I got a feeling that certain things will never be the same again. Uh, but there are certain things will be there are certain positive things that even can come from this. And this venue, this forum right now is an example of that. There's a way to use, there's a way to be creative and use what you have. And we all have to do that right now. So that's some of the things I think about. Um, I also think about music as a phenomenon. Uh, and now, this might sound corny, but I also think of the cosmic uh, connection that music has with the whole universe. Um, a great scientist once said that matter and everything that you see, including the stars and everything, all of matter basically is frozen music because it's all vibratory and music is pure vibration. A on the piano, middle A is 440 of these little vibrations per second. The only thing that differentiates one note from another note is a different, it vibrates at a different speed. So music indeed is part of this whole universe. If you take a glass and thump it, it's going to be a note. It's going to be G, A flat, F. It's going to be something. So it's true. Everything is resonating and everything has a note. And this whole structure, at least, is based on the laws of music. And that basically, that's what the Pythagorean um, his concept of that, the music of the spheres. That's where that comes from. Yeah, and the Egyptians knew about this. And the point is that music is bigger, is a very integral part of this whole the whole universe. And so I think of myself as being blessed to be able to actually use some of the elements of basically creation itself and to have a little bit of understanding of what that is and how to navigate in with music, vibrations, tone, all of these things. I think of it as being bigger than me, but being part of the whole thing. And so when I want to, when I'm thinking of a phrase to play, like an idea while improvising, I really try to have my mentality open so that I can hear the music that the angels are singing and be able to convey that and just have the chops and the technique to bring that about. So I'm aware of having a certain kind of mental attitude where I'm open to receive that which is already there and available for all of us. And I'm aware of that. I mean, I can talk about it. I can't always get there here to receive it, but on a conscious level, I'm aware that there is such a thing as that. I'm also aware of this is probably what we should be trying to do. And it's an act of non doing, getting it into this frame of mind to receive. It's not an act of doing, it's an act of humility to receive the knowledge that's already there for everybody to get. And this is probably what Monk meant by we're all geniuses. You just have to get in touch with certain things in order for that to happen. And so these are things I think about. I think about this, about music that way. I think about composing a certain way. I'm thinking about politics. I'm thinking about human behavior. Um, I'm thinking about balance as a human being because I want to be a productive, creative musician, but I also want to be a good human being. I want to be a good person. I don't want to be, I, yeah, I want to be empathetic. Uh, I want to be, I want to understand. I want to be balanced as a person, um, and I want to be. I just want to be a great. I just want to be. I want to be able to receive and actually produce, things from the heart, and also, and that's you have to. It's pretty self-absorbing. You have to, it's a lot trying to keep your chops up and be ready to perform and ready to do these things. But at the same time, you want to be a person. You want to be a human being. You want to not be too selfish. Um, and so I'm always aware. I've always been aware of this balance that we must have. And I do kind of try to do that. I'm not always successful, but I'm aware that this is maybe something that should be tried for. And that's about it. I mean, I'm constantly I'm always asking why, why this, why that, and I'm just I don't know all the answers, but I certainly am curious, and I that's that's pretty much it for me, you know. Um, I can listen. I've had about 3 or 4 cups of coffee. I can talk about. It's hard to shut me up. I can talk about many things, but I don't want to ramble or bore, be boring. But these are some of the things that I do think about. Oh, I do think about this. Earlier, I was talking about music being part of the fabric, or actually the foundation of the universe as we know it, because it's all about vibration. Um, I've also thought about this, that since it is vibration, and you have a note is vibrating at certain rates of frequencies, and so it's affecting matter. If it affects glass, where a little champagne glass can ring a certain tone because I'm playing A and this resonating and it's sympathetic, this glass is ringing A as well. I'm wondering if certain notes and tones, how it affects cells in the body, the human body cells. Are there certain notes, certain tones, certain vibrations of notes or phrases? Does it affect cellular activity? Is it possible to actually cure the human body with the right grouping of notes and rhythms? I think about that, and I think the ancients sort of knew about this. It's not like I'm the first one to think about this, but I'm thinking about it. I think about that, and so to me, like when I playing music to me is not just entertaining myself or somebody, but also how I wanted. If I could learn how to play a certain phrase, a certain notes, or certain tones that actually could make people feel, not only feel better, say spiritually, but actually maybe make somebody be healthier on a physical level. To me, these are very interesting things, other than just trying to play, countdown, or something. I think it's bigger than that. And I'm very much aware of that. And I'm just trying to uh, find out a way to tap into that, what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, the Christians call the book of life, the the Indians call the Akashic records. Basically, it's just all of the knowledge in the universe that's there for everybody to get if you open up to it. So I'm aware of that on a conscious level. And I just try to, in terms of at least creating music, to try to be in touch with that and be open for it. And that's what I do. And that's pretty much it. So let me see. I guess I've talked enough. So I'm open to if anybody wants to ask me anything, and I might need some help with that. But other than that, that's about all I have to say, unless someone has a comment or wants to ask me a question or something. Gail, are you there?
I am here. Tons of comments, no questions, but I just want to thank you so much. This was
Really?
amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Gail. Thank you. I hope I didn't ramble. Sometimes I can, my stream of consciousness, because I'm thinking about 10 million things at once. And then to try to organize everything I want to say into some kind of coherent, consistent, linear thing. Uh, that is something that I need to work on. So I hope I didn't ramble too much.
You did
Okay.
beautifully, and thank
Well,
you
thank
so
you.
much.
Is that about it now? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Okay. Well, then thank you so much, Gail, for having me. Okay.
Okay, thank you. We're ending the
Okay.
broadcast.